Hi guys! In today's video we'll be making the other mother from Coraline. This has been heavily requested lately, so hope you guys enjoy my take on the character. I chose to go for the Beldam's more final form when she's losing power and her face is cracked and she appears most like a spider, because I think it's the creepiest form of hers. For this project I'll be making a hybrid between these two Monster High dolls, and also making some body parts myself. One of them being the remains of my skeleton doll, where I have already used the head, leg and head for my corpse bride video. And then this other doll, well, I'll only be using the head because it had slimmer features. Starting with the head, I removed all the original hair since we wouldn't be needing it. And then I used an X-Acto knife to cut away the ears, again, no need. And I also cut away the bulk of the eyes because we'll be adding flat buttons that I'll make from clay later. And I also cut away at the nose and the mouth just to make an even base so we can build up some modifications. At this point I use some Aceone nail polish remover to remove the actual paint of the face, and I also hollowed out the cheeks by cutting away some of the material there, but I didn't get a footage of it. And after that we'll be building up the new features for the face in acrylic, which is normally used for nail enhancements, so an acrylic liquid and powder. So I used the acrylic firstly to fill out any small holes and uneven areas where I'd cut away some of the material, just to get an even surface to paint later. And then after that I went in to build up the features, both giving her a new mouth and smile, building out a crooked, slightly pointed nose, and also filling in around the eyes because the doll had in its sculpt very defined brow bones, which we would need. Since we would be moving her neck as well, I just filled the neck hole with a bit of sticky tack and encapsulated in the clear acrylic. Once everything on the face is set, I went over it with some very fine sandpaper just to smooth out the surface and remove any bumps. And once I removed the dust, I went in with acrylic paint straight on top in thin layers to make a white base color. Once the white paint was all opaque and dry, I used a grey watercolor pencil to sketch out the features of the face, both being the eyebrows, and I also sketched teeth, but it was kind of hard to see, but predominantly all the cracks that she's going to have on her face. And this is obviously a Monster High version of the character because the features and proportions are going to be a little different, but I had a reference photo of the other mother so I could get sort of the feel I was going for. Once I had the basic sketch line down, I went in with acrylic paint, starting by painting the lips black and painting on the teeth. For the cracks on the face, it's okay if you don't have a steady hand, because it actually looks a little better if they're just a tad shaky and off. And you also want to pay attention to not making the lines too even in thickness, because it just looks better and not organic, but I guess you know what I mean, if the lines go from being very thin in some places to thicker in others. Even though I'll be making buttons to put on the face later, I'm still painting on the round shape just so I got the feel once I was working on it, because having the blank eyes just didn't look right. Then continue around the face, doing all the cracks. Once I had all the lines down, I went with chalk pastel to shade. At first I thought I would only do black, but it honestly looked very flat. And the reference picture I was looking at had a slightly blue tint to the shading, and I thought it actually looked really nice. So I started mixing in some blue, so it became a grayish blue almost. I couldn't build up the shading as dark as I wanted to, so therefore I gave it a spray of the Mr. Super Clear spray in order to give it some grip back, and then I moved on to shading on top. Once you're happy with the look of the face, you can give it the final seal of Mr. Super Clear. For the buttons, I sculpted them in some black Polymer Clay before baking them according to package instructions. After cooling, I used some embroidery thread, which you can divide into smaller pieces, and then threaded that through. Glue the buttons in place, then you want to turn the head over and make a new little hole for what's going to be the new neck. And I twisted together some pieces of wire just for support, and then I used more of the acrylic to build up what looked like a neck spine. Once the neck was all set, I painted it and shaded it like I had the face, and also painted the top of the head black. For the hair, I used some 100% acrylic yarn, which I brushed out and straightened to use for doll hair. And for each strand, before I applied it, I completely soaked it in glue. And this was to have it dry and look clumpy but sleek, rather than being fuzzy. Once all dry, you can trim off the excess and you should have something like this. Before putting the head aside for now, I use some regular Polymer Clay glaze to glaze the button eyes and also the lips. Now for the body, we're going to start by removing all the things that we won't need, so we actually end up with just a thin bit of the spine and also the rib cage. Then you want to paint and shade what will be visible of the rib cage, the same as we did the face. Now for the strange shape of her bust and also the collar of her dress, I cut out a shape like this in paper first before transferring it to some recycled cardstock, and then I glued that onto some fabric. Glue a small strip of fabric around the spine to cover that, and I'll be gluing most of this together just because I honestly had no clue how to sew it. And then move on to adding the collar and gluing the pieces around the bust. I use some black chalk pastel to make this fabric look a little darker and dirty. Now onto the arms. I take some thick wire and cut off 2 pieces and bend them into the shape I want. Then I use the same acrylic as before, just in white, in order to thicken up the top of the joints. For the hands, I use some thinner wire to make small, almost needle shapes like this, before hooking together 3 pieces. For the base of the hand or the palm, I used 5 short pieces of the thicker wire, and I used acrylic to stick it all together and pose it. Then I attached the head to the body with more acrylic, making sure it had this kind of weird angle going forward like her neck has, and then I added on the arms as well and painted and shaded them. Because I realized I wouldn't be able to make strong enough spider legs to support the weight of the doll, I took this black doll stand, which came with some Monster High doll I don't remember, cut it down to size, and then used wire to attach the doll onto it so I still have a bit of posability to it. For the skirt, I took a half circle of some thin black fabric, folded in half so it was a quarter circle, so it would be opaque enough, and then sewed this around the doll. I didn't really have any suitable fabric like the one she had in the movie, so I went with black instead. At this point, I also attached the hands. For the legs, I used the thick wire again, measured out how long I needed them to be, and bent them into the shape I wanted. Because these were bigger than the arms, I chose to use some white Polymer Clay to thicken them up, which I did at the top of every joint, and I also added some spikes, which I believe she has. And once I was happy with them, I baked them all according to package instructions, and then I painted and shaded them. To attach the legs, I cut small slits in the skirt and then glued the legs onto the wire underneath. And then as the final touch, I added a circle of the top fabric around the hips, and then she's done. I really hope you guys enjoyed my take on the character, especially the guys who have been requesting it so much. I also intend to do a Coraline to go with her, even if I don't make it before Halloween, because so many of you have asked for it. Thank you guys so much for watching, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in a new one real soon. Bye!